Hello, citizens of the verse. This week's ATV was all about the stamina system. The stamina system is something that was designed to add more of a strategic and immersive element to the FPS portion of the game. The stamina component defines the optimal settings for stamina regeneration. Upon every breath, the system queries the room for its atmospheric composition and determines your rate of recovery based on its oxygen levels. No oxygen means no stamina regeneration. The player will have a limited amount of time before they start suffocating. The game looks at the player's helmet as a room, a tiny room that you can stick on your head and walk around with. You automatically enter this room when you equip the helmet, allowing the stamina system to maintain optimal regeneration, mainly because it scrubs the air you're breathing of CO2 from the helmet and replaces it with fresh oxygen. Not having a helmet means that you're going to be dependent on the atmospheric conditions of the surrounding environment. Things like low pressure, low oxygen, noxious or poisonous gases will directly affect you, your health, and your ability to regenerate stamina. They're trying to create a gameplay scenario that encourages the players to want to take their helmets off as much as possible, mostly by making it costly to keep it on at all times. This creates scenarios and panic situations where you're going to be rushing to get your suit on as quickly as possible to avoid some catastrophic depressurization of your ship or the structure that you're in. The main consumer of stamina is movement, and the stamina drain depends on your stance, equipment weight, and the slope of the ground that you're moving on. So walking up a flight of stairs is going to be more stamina draining than walking down it. Every action you do consumes stamina. Sprinting, jumping, crouching, vaulting over objects, even idling will consume stamina, but on a very low scale when compared to the other actions. So if idling consumes stamina, then how do you get it back? If your oxygen levels are at their peak, then you'll be able to regen it at a faster rate than your idling consumes it. They want to encourage the player to think tactically before they perform actions and not constantly run and bunny hop everywhere. Abusing these actions will have consequences like affecting your aim and increasing the recoil of your weapons till it becomes unmanageable. If people are more mindful of how they use stamina, then they can easily avoid suffering from these disadvantages. Arriving fresh into combat will be far more effective than people who YOLO their way straight into the enemy ranks. Your oxygen levels hopefully will create a scenario where you're regenerating more stamina than you're consuming. Stopping will give the maximum regeneration of stamina that you could get, and oxygen consumption is completely tied into your actions. The example they gave was idling might completely consume your supply of oxygen after 2 hours, while sprinting non-stop could possibly consume that same amount of oxygen in 10 minutes. Players' abilities also consume stamina, and by abilities they mean things like jumping and vaulting. Your stamina is going to have to be at a certain level in order to even perform these actions. Jumping or vaulting will instantly detract from your stamina, while sprinting and holding your breath will have a longer lasting effect associated with it. When they added equipment weight into the mix, it really threw these numbers off. This gave all of the abilities variable costs, making it almost impossible to balance. They fixed this by taking the character's remaining stamina into account rather than just detracting from their current stamina, and by setting minimal thresholds that abilities can drain your stamina at. Status conditions of your character are displayed to the player through a series of post effects. For instance, low stamina and low health modifies the brightness of the screen. In order to keep this effect from getting too out of control when stacking conditions, it's never allowed to exceed a certain amount and gives diminishing returns as the severity of your condition increases. Well, that's the new stamina system in more detail. As for everything, this system is a work in progress, and your input is going to be very important when determining how this system is going to be altered in future iterations of the game. Thank you for your time, and I hope you'll be joining me again in the next video.